Okay guys, we are back for episode number 2. Alright, so we're actually going to delete a lot of what we've done on the past one because, well, it's kind of a pointless app right now. So we're going to go to Shell and we're going to just delete the button and we'll go to Shell View Model. We're going to say learning MVVM is awesome. Alright, we're going to get rid of this command, and we're actually going to get rid of our on property change as well. Okay. Alright. Or we're going to build it and we're going to run it, and oh, we broke something. And that's because we don't have an on property change anymore. Okay, we're going to build it and we're going to run it, and we are bound, but we've done nothing else. Okay, so we can actually go ahead and convert this to an auto property, and that will be that. We're going to go, next thing we're going to do, we're actually going to do, we're going to create a class that we can use across multiple view models. How we're going to do this, we're going to go here and we're going to actually create a new folder inside view models called base. And that will actually allow us to do some use things across multiple view models. Alright, so we're going to make this an abstract class. If you don't know what an abstract class is, what it basically does is you cannot new it up. So if I wanted to, let's go to Shell View Model and let's just create a constructor so we have something to work in. We want to say new view model base, and when we do this, it says that we are not allowed to. It says we cannot create an instance of the abstract class or interface. So that's what an abstraction does. You can inherit from it, and it will allow you to run run classes on it, or share methods and properties and so on and so forth. But what we're going to do with him, we're going to implement the iNotify property change, which we learned on the last one. I'm just going to go ahead and implement it because we already talked about it, and we are going to have a set property that does this for us. Well, I mean, let's not get that much into that right now, but we want to register commands, so we're going to make a protected. Protected means that the subclasses are allowed to see it, but it is still not available to classes that do not inherit from it. Alright, so we're going to say virtual, so we can override it if we need to, and we're going to say void, and that will make it so that it doesn't return anything, and we're going to say register. Spelled register. Register commands. Alright, I can't spell today. Sorry about that, guys. Alright, and I'm going to make a constructor. I'm going to actually make it protected. And I'm going to call register commands. Alright, so now when we do this, we will have this, when we inherit this, we can say view model base. So now we will have an, oops, I did the wrong class. This is the test. Alright, so if we put this to backing field, and we've done all this before, so we say value, oops, alright, what is going on here? Alright, so we say title equals value, and we say on property change. Uh-oh, it's not there. Well, that's because we didn't inherit from it. And you can inherit saying a colon, then type in view model base. Alright, so now you will see that we are there, and we can call it just exactly the same as we did earlier, and it will still update the thing. But we don't need that because we're not going to worry with that right now. So now we'll convert to auto property. Alright. So that said, now we want to do let's do a little bit of database work. Basically, what we want to do is we want to create contacts that we can pretty quickly and easily add and look up different contacts. So we're going to, we're going to actually create a new folder and call this models. Okay. Lots of people like to put their data access into another project. You know, it's probably a good thing to do. Alright, we'll do it. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and create a new project. It's going to be a class library. It's going to be MVVM .models. Okay? And only one V there. Alright. We can now pretty easily go ahead and add a class and say contact. Alright, this contact is going to have a public contact. I like to use a base class here to make things a little bit easier when we do more than one. So we're going to say an abstract, and it's going to be model base. Okay, and it's just simply going to, I forgot class. It's just simply going to have an integer that is called ID. Okay, now we'll derive from model base. Okay, and let's just, for good measure, have a public interface and call this iEntity. Okay, and it's going to be an int and ID with a get and a set. Alright, so model base now derives from iEntity. Alright, so let's go ahead and move him to his own file and move him as well. Alright, so now they're in separate files. Now, a contact is going to have a first name, last name, phone number, alright, and that's all for now. And we might as well have an email address too. Alright, Oops. And let's go ahead and add a few, make him required. Alright, and you do actually have to add a reference to this. In here you need to go to manage NuGet, oops, not manage NuGet, apologize, add references, and go to assemblies and just type data annotations. Go ahead and add that in. Now you have a required attribute. Alright. I don't know why that was giving me so much heck. Alright, so let's go ahead and make one more string length, and we're just going to make it a maximum of 50. We're going to copy and put this into last name, and we'll make the phone number. Alright, we're going to go ahead and make him 15. Alright, so an email address is not required. But he does have a string length of 150. And alright. So there's that. Let's now add a data layer. Let's go ahead and add one more here. We need to add another project. And the reason we're doing this is separation of concerns, which is a very good practice. Let's go to MVVM. Whoops. .data. Let's delete him. Let's add a NuGet package. To do that, you can do this is a little faster if you go to Tools, and you can actually NuGet package manager, and then package manager console. That will pop this up, and actually a lot of times it goes into another screen, but I just moved it down here because I like it there. So we're going to type install package and entity framework. Alright. Alright, so I didn't do that right. So another way is NuGet, and it's always in the top. I didn't have the dash in there. Alright, just to show you it does work, we're going to type install package. entity framework. Alright, and now it'll do it. Still didn't do it. Alright. Oh. I don't know why that's not working, but we did it this way instead. Alright, so we're going to do that. Now we're going to go ahead and add a class here. It's going to be called context. Okay. Actually, let's not make it context because that's probably using. We're going to say context. And yes, we want to make it public. And we want to inherit DB context. Alright. So we want to create a DB set. This DB set is going to be a contact. And you see it's not there, that's because we haven't added the reference. Let's not manage NuGet. add reference, and we want projects and models. Alright, now we need to also add entity framework here, and also add a reference to both of these. Alright, so now we have that. We're going to import it, and we're going to remove unused. Alright, so, and let's call this contacts. And I like my table name to match the name of my class, so I'm going to call this contact. Alright, so now let's create a database. We need to go here, and we also need to go to app config, and we need to add a connection string. Okay, I'm assuming at this point you already have SQL Server installed, Express. If not, you can just simply type SQL Server Express 2017 or whatever and download it for free right there. Alright, so that's how you can do that. I'm assuming you've already done that, so we're going to add connection string. Actually, I'm going to say name, and I'm just going to call it default connection string, and this is going to be a server. Oops. Alright, and then you're going to have a database, and we're going to call it contacts DB, and then we're going to say trusted connection equals true. And that might be, and then you also need to have a provider, and I always mix this up, so I think if I remember right, it's SQL client. I need to look it up, just one second. So what you can do when you do this, you just type SQL you can go to SQL Server, and you can get this right here. That'll give you the exact syntax of this, and then the provider name, I think it's SQL client, and I have it on my notes off the screen. Apologize, gotta look it up real quick. Okay, it's SQL client. It's system. Okay, it's system.data.SQL client. Okay. So there's that. Let's go ahead and let's get this going. You need to create a constructor, and it needs to have a base, and the connection string name is default. Alright, I think that's what we need. It is case sensitive, so you see that wouldn't have worked. We needed to like that. Alright, so now we can go back to Package Manager Console. Make sure you're on data, okay, and just simply because they're in separate projects, you need to make sure that you go to this app config and you copy your connection string and put it in here. Okay, and that's only for, you actually don't need that while the program's running. You only need it for the code first part, the entity framework code first part, which is what we're doing now. So we're going to say it's a few commands that you have to type. The first one is enable migrations. Okay. And you'll see that you get a migrations folder here. And I'll open this up while this is running because it does take a second. I want to just show you that we don't have a database called, I think it's called Contact DB that we named, or Contacts DB or something like that. You see here we do not, so I'm actually gonna, the next command you need to type is add dash migration. And then the name is going to be create DB. And it'll think for a second. And it'll come up with some code here showing you what it's going to create. You see that an ID is false, it has an identity. First name is not nullable, and last name is not nullable. The max length is 50, the phone number max length is 15, and the email address max length is 50, but both of those are nullable. And then it also has a down method here. Because it's a full versioning support, so you can always go back if you need, and it will just simply drop the table. Alright, so now let's go ahead and type update database. Alright, and it's going to think for a second. And you see that it's applying the database and running succeeded. So now when I go here and I refresh databases, we now have a Contacts DB with a table. You know there's two tables in here, migration history and then contacts. So what's in migration history? Why is that there? You look, and basically it just tells you, you know, that the name of the migration that we did, model number, and it tells you what version. So that's our full versioning support. So that way we can always go back. Remember when I said we can always go back with the drop method? Well, that's what that does there. Okay. So now we have that. Let's get into a little bit of adding data. So first thing, I'm going to use Alt-WL, and I'm actually going to go to Views, and I'm going to add grid to grid here. I am just going to say grid row definitions. Row definition. It's going to be auto. I'm going to put about 3 of these on there. And then one that is a star. Okay. And 2 column definitions. Column definition. Alright, and column definition, width is going to be auto, and star. So now we're going to have a label. Content is going to be first name. Oops. And we're going to have a text box. And text is going to be binding to contact dot first name. Now we're going to copy these. Now this needs to be in grid.column 1. And it's griping at me because it wants to have a row specification as well. Alright, so the next one we're going to have a last name. And this is going to have a row specification of 1. And this is going to have a row specification of 1. This is going to be last name. Okay. When it's a column, it's fine. Alright. Alright, so this is going to be phone number. Okay. And this is actually going to be in 2. And we need an email address as well. It's going to be 3. Alright, we need to add a couple more of these. Alright, so we need one more. That is going to have a button. Content is going to say save. And you remember our command earlier. That is simply going to be binding to save command. Alright, where are we at on time here? It's not telling me. Alright, so this is going to be in grid.column 0, grid.row 4. Alright, so let's go back to our view model. We also want to add one more of these. Oh, we already have a command. Okay. So let's override this. And let's say register commands. So let's say save command. Okay, we can say, alright, so now we can simply do this, say CTOR, and this is going to be contact context. Alright, let's introduce read-only field. So now we can simply say contact, right, dot contacts dot add, and we also need to have Let's go ahead and give him backing property. Alright. And let's do what we just learned a few minutes ago. Okay. So now we can say contacts.add, and we can say contact, and we can say contacts.save changes. Alright, so, and this will work. We'll go ahead and run it and show you. We're going to go ahead and say James Tays, which is my last name in case you didn't know. My phone number, or the phone number is 888-8888, and the email address is j.email@email.com. Alright, so now when we click save, we hit that like we're supposed to. We go ahead and step over it. The value cannot be null. Oh, and that's because our contact is null. So what we need to do is say contact equals new contact. Okay. Do that again. Alright, so let's say James Tays 888-8888, and the email address is email@email.com. Alright, so now when we hit save, we hit this, we step over it, oops. Alright, now we hit save changes, and you see it works. We can go ahead and run. Now let's go ahead and select from him, and you see it saves to the database. So that is actually saving to the database, which is great. Alright, so what we've learned so far is that we are able to use Entity Framework and code first and create a database, and we are able to split that into multiple, or we're able to save that pretty easily to the database without any errors. Alright, so but now the problem is, how do we test this? We don't want to test using Entity Framework. The general rule of code is you never want to test someone else's code. There are some things that we can do, and I'll get into that on the next video. I'm trying to keep these fairly short, but I just wanted to go ahead and show you this. So on the next video, our goal is going to be, in this, have a list of the contacts that we have on the left side. On the right side, we want to be able to either add a new one or view the current contact. And we can do that pretty good. We can use some dependency injection and register our views, and register our interfaces, and then we can test them as well. We will get into that into the next video. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please go ahead and share it with people and subscribe. Remember, it helps me, it helps you, it's a win-win for everybody. Thanks.